Yes.
Now, I'm really interested in content strategy, but I want to know from, say you're not talking about content for users on the website, which is some of the examples you focused on. If you're working in an organisation, say even the internal content, how would it, if you had a successful content strategy in the organisation, how would it look to the people, someone in HR, someone who produces documentation, and someone else? So how would it work if they encounter, if they had a successful content strategy and they had a content strategist? If they want to be producing their own documents and filing them here or there.
Well, let's take intranet, for example. So the intranet has got everything from HR, it's got you know, policies and procedures, it's got information for new hires, I mean, it's got all this sort of thing. That would be a way, is take a look at all the internal content that the organization produces, and then inventory it, and then look at holes. There are going to be a lot of holes. Some of it will be very thorough, some of it will be very sketchy. Look at where the gaps are, look at where the things are incorrect because they're outdated and haven't been updated. So you're creating your content inventory from that. And then if you possibly can, bring those leaders of each of those areas of content together to strategize an effective tone, theme for the content, come up with a style sheet that can be used by everyone who's responsible for content in the organization. If some of it resides in paper, there might be a subset of rules and guidelines for paper, but more and more is transferring to electronic, and so that's a good opportunity.
And what about whether, like lots of people work here, produce lots of documentation for clients, for other people in the organisation? It's quite a big job to manage all that, isn't it?
Right.
Strategy.
Right. So the problem is one person can't do it all. That's why a content strategist is usually at the top of the pyramid, and then the very bottom are actually not meant to sound like lower, but just sort of the worker bees are the content writers, but the strategist is the one whose job is occupied with bringing people together, synthesizing, doing an inventory, creating the templates, the designs, and it won't happen overnight. It's a long process. Yeah. Does that answer your question a little bit? Any other questions? Yes.
In one of your slides, you said that the people could find the information easily. How do you measure easily?
Well, there are a couple. Okay, so the question was, one of the slides said that people can find the information easily. How do you measure easily? There are a couple ways to do that. One is you can ask them directly in a post-task question. So, for example, if you've got scenarios, I usually suggest that if they want to get at information like that, we'll throw in one or two questions at the end of each scenario that say something like, how easy or difficult was it for you to find this information? So you get a very quick rating. And then a follow-up question to that would be, did that take less time, more time, or about the time you expected? Because measuring actual time is pretty irrelevant. So if you set a goal that says, okay, they should be able to perform this task in X number of minutes, the fact is we know from usability studies that some people will take longer and they'll think that was just fine. It meets their expectations. That's about the amount of time I expected it to take. So yeah. So getting at their perceptions of ease of use are more important than determining whether they did it according to what may be an arbitrary time frame. So asking in these questions, how easy or difficult was that? Did that take less time, more time, or about the time you expected? And listening to what they say. So it's very typical in usability testing to use what we call a think aloud protocol, which is you encourage your users to talk about what they're doing as they're doing it, and not just to say, I'm clicking on this or I'm trying to do that, but oh, so you know, this is what happened there, or I have no idea what to do now, or I'm completely lost, or wow, this is fantastic, I wish all websites worked like this, or all intranets worked like this. So you're getting that piece of data as well, and then you get the whole cumulative one in the end if you do some sort of a system usability scale or a different questionnaire that you want that sort of summarizes the whole experience. Yeah. Other questions? Yes?
Carol, just how would you suggest technical communicators work alongside UX designers work in established marketing of designers.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if this were a, make a place for yourself at the table, that would be it. That would be my number one recommendation. And how do you do that? Well, they're not going to necessarily think to invite you. So some of the more enlightened organizations will say, yes, we definitely need the marketing people, we need the technical communication people, blah, blah, blah. And even when they want the technical communication person there, they may never think about the documentation. So get yourself a seat at the table, offer to do something like take notes, like bring refreshments. I mean, something that, will sort of make you more valuable than they might think in the beginning. In other words, work your way in, and then once you have a seat at the table, ask if anyone's thought about a task that tests the documentation. You get the chance then to say, I mean, in the early days when I was doing usability testing, I would be amazed that people would say, oh, did anybody, this was back when we were all in paper, did anybody remember to bring the documentation? Oh, forgot it. It was such an afterthought. So now, fortunately, with it's embedded and all of that, they can't forget to bring it. They may not have developed it, but then you could say, well, could we at least ask a question that says, help isn't there, but let us know where you'd want it, because that'll be very useful to us. And then you could be taking all the notes about the things that you've learned about technical communication. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talking about user satisfaction, a lot of web pages have, I'm thinking of like Microsoft Word or something. At the bottom they'll have, was this useful or not useful? Do people do that? Do they listen to that? I actually find it annoying. I never answer it.
I don't have any research on that. I also find it annoying, but I can't tell you. Obviously, they keep doing it because there must be enough response that they feel like as though they're getting something. So I don't know about that. I just know that it exists. But how useful it is, I can't say. They do a lot of usability work at Microsoft. They do, a lot. Yes.
I'm not surprised if anyone ever said anything positive.
Well, no, pardon me?
Isn't it human nature to tell people when it's wrong, but it's you never tell them when it's right?
Right.
You just carry
That's
on,
right.
don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's much more likely to say to complain than it is to praise.
I do click them on the Microsoft ones, but I'm always telling them when it's wrong. I never ever tell them when it's what I want
Right,
to do, so.
that's right. Yeah, so they must be getting enough that the annoyance factor is less critical to them than whatever data they're getting back, but I can't respond to that specifically.
But they get all kinds of other logged information, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Error stuff, so.
Oh, yeah, they got all kinds of back-end stuff, and they've got, yeah. And I mean, okay, so you say, so Microsoft products have a lot of problems, and they've got huge presence for usability testing. But you think about it, you've got, millions of users, and people are different, and you can't discover every single thing, and you're always looking at one piece of the interface when you're doing testing. So actually, that's why some of the tools I'm going to talk about tomorrow in the workshop, but that's why some of these automated tools are becoming very useful, where you can get big data responses from automated user testing that's unmoderated and things like that, like Loop 11 and usertesting.com and things like that. And in conjunction with doing smaller studies where you're actually interacting with the participants, you can get a lot of very useful data. So it helps you merge data from different sources and learn more about the user experience. Yes?
Listening to your introduction of what content strategy was all about made me think of product management. I'm just wondering whether you think that's a useful analogy between the two.
Yeah, I do. And as a matter of fact, one of the slides, let me see if I can go back to it. One of the books. Okay, so Anne Rockley, so it's this book right here. Content Strategy 101, Transform Technical Content into a Business Asset. That's a combination of managing content, project management, and content strategy. So yes, I do think that they are overlapping and similar.
Because product management, of course, is very old.
Right, exactly. But I think
Companies would already have product management in place, and maybe content strategy could come in and fit very well.
Well, that would be great if that would work. The problem that I would anticipate happening is that they would think that they don't need content strategy if they already have product management. So that would be the flip side of that. You had a question.
My name's Moray.
Oh,
What's the
okay.
name of that logging tool?
Morae, Moray. It's by Tech Smith. Yeah, not the same spelling. Right. Other questions?
Question down there.
Oh, yes, you're in the light, so I can't see you.
Personally, just back on the last slide of the books.
Yeah. Oh, back there.
Yeah.
As I was just flipping, let me get back there.
Just
Sure.
remember that the trainers plug for the Sarah Keithbrook. I remember that was put out as a free website. The whole book was,
Number 7.
yeah, number 7. And you could actually buy the EPUB.
Good. Okay. I didn't know that. Yeah. The Content Strategy 101, number 7 was put out free. Anne Rockley is, do you all know Anne Rockley? She's one of the early, she's my generation. She's one of the early proponents of this and content management and then expanding into content strategy, so that's good to know. I was going to flip ahead here to speaking of books, so just to do a shameless self-promotion. I had one more thing for questions now or questions later, so this might be a good place to end. My goodness, look at all those slides. There! Okay, so if you have questions later, you can get in touch with me. That's my email address. That's my current book. That's my company's website. So I always respond, so I look forward to hearing from you. And one last chance for questions. It's 10:05, so I think it's just time for the break. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. You may not have been leaping up and down on the stage, but you're still very animated.
Well, thank you. I was afraid to try that.
And here's just a small token of our
Oh, thank you very much. Lovely.
appreciation.